Welcome to the Bacolod City Labor Partnership podcast.
Great to be here.
Today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty fascinating based on our sources.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
The question is, why, with over 110 million people in the Philippines, why hasn't a Filipino citizen ever actually gone to space?
Yeah, that is a good question. You look at the population size, the dynamism, it does make you wonder.
Right. But the story our sources point to, it's more complicated, lots of twists and turns.
Definitely not a simple answer. It involves near misses, economic factors.
And, maybe more excitingly, a real push happening now that suggests maybe it's not so far off.
Exactly. A lot of hope building recently.
So let's unpack that. Where do we start? Maybe back in the 80s.
Yeah, the sources mentioned something interesting around 1985. NASA was apparently looking at astronauts from allied countries.
Okay, and the Philippines was on that list.
Seems like it. Now, this connects tangentially to Jose Hernandez.
Oh, the NASA engineer.
Yeah.
Mexican-American, but with Filipino roots, right?
That's him. He flew later, in 2004, after 12 rejections. Incredible perseverance.
Amazing story. But he wasn't a Filipino citizen flying for the Philippines.
Correct. But the intriguing part is this mention, sort of whispers really, of a potential deal.
A deal? Between who?
Between NASA and the Marcos government back then. The idea was maybe to send a Filipino scientist up.
Wow, really? In the 80s? Is there solid proof?
Well, that's the thing. Official records are scarce, according to our sources. But the suggestion is there that this opportunity might have been real.
So what happened?
Sounds like it just fizzled out. Politics shifting, maybe budget problems cropping up. The usual suspect.
Yeah. A real what-if moment in history, then.
Absolutely. How different things might look today if that had happened back then.
Okay, so that door closed. What were the main roadblocks then in the years after that? Why the long wait?
Well, the biggest one, honestly, is just the sheer cost.
Right. Space programs aren't cheap.
Not even close. We're talking billions of dollars for human spaceflight. And for the Philippines, understandably, the priority was often elsewhere.
Like poverty reduction, basic infrastructure, things like that.
Exactly. When you've got urgent needs on the ground, spending billions to send someone to space, it's a tough sell. A matter of national priorities.
Makes sense. What else played a role?
Well, think about the Cold War. That space race pressure.
Yeah, the U.S. versus the Soviet Union.
That pushed countries like India, even Japan, to invest heavily and quickly. That same kind of urgency wasn't really there for the Philippines.
No geopolitical race to win in the same way.
Pretty much. And then there's the infrastructure aspect. Until, fairly recently, the Philippines didn't really have its own space infrastructure.
Like no satellites, no ground control.
Not a dedicated national program, no. Even getting the first satellite up was a more recent development. You need those building blocks first.
But it's not like there wasn't talent, right? The sources mention Filipinos contributing elsewhere, like at NASA.
Oh, absolutely. People like Dr. Angelita Castro-Kelly, involved in space shuttle mission design. Major contributions from Filipinos in the diaspora.
So the expertise existed, just not harnessed for a national human spaceflight program.
Right. Contributing to missions is one thing. Launching your own astronaut requires a whole different level of national investment and structure.
Okay, so that paints the picture of the past challenges. But now, you said things are changing.
Massively. The whole narrative is shifting. A huge milestone was 2019.
What happened then?
The launch of Maya 1. It was the Philippines' first ever microsatellite.
Okay, a microsatellite. Small, but significant.
Hugely significant.
Yeah.
Symbolically, yes, but also practically. It was about building capability, satellite tech, communications, observation, laying groundwork.
And that momentum continued.
It did. Big time. Fast forward to 2023, and you have the official creation of the Philippine Space Agency, PhilSA.
PhilSA. Right, I've heard of them. A dedicated agency.
Yes, and they didn't just form the agency, they set a really bold target.
Which is?
To send a Filipino citizen to space by 2030.
Wow, 2030. That's ambitious, but concrete.
Very. It signals a serious national commitment now to space science and exploration. It's not just talk anymore.
And it's not just government efforts either, is it? What about private companies?
That's another piece of the puzzle. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, they're changing the landscape.
Making space access potentially cheaper, or at least offering more options.
Exactly. It opens up possibilities beyond just, purely government-funded missions. Maybe even a privately funded Filipino flight someday. Who knows?
That adds another layer of possibility. It seems like the timing is really lining up now.
It does feel that way. And critically, there's the human element being built domestically.
How so?
Universities in the Philippines are now actually offering aerospace engineering programs.
Ah, so training the next generation.
Precisely. Nurturing that talent pool right there at home. Creating the engineers, the scientists.
Hmm.
Maybe the very person who becomes the first Filipino astronaut.
That feels like the most sustainable path, building that local expertise.
It really is. It makes that 2030 goal seem much more grounded in reality.
You know, for anyone wanting to dig deeper into this or other related topics, definitely check out the Bacolod City Labor Partnership on YouTube and Facebook. Lots of interesting discussions there.
Good point. It's worth following these developments.
So looking back, it's quite a journey from that potential near miss in the 80s
A lost opportunity
through decades where, understandably, focus was elsewhere.
on very real pressing needs.
To now, launching satellites, setting up a space agency, training engineers, setting that 2030 goal.
It really feels like the pieces are falling into place. The ambition is backed by action now.
It seems much more like when than if at this point, doesn't it? Seeing a Filipino flag on a spacesuit.
I think so. The momentum is definitely there, and it's built on solid foundations now, like Maya 1 and PhilSA.
It just goes to show how national priorities can evolve and how technology and global trends can open up new dreams. That initial lost dream from the 80s and now this focused push, it's quite the turnaround.
It really is. Building step by step from microsatellites to potentially, the stars.
A fascinating journey to watch. Thank you for listening to the Bacolod City Labor Partnership podcast.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
And remember to check out the Bacolod City Labor Partnership on our YouTube channel and Facebook page for more.